the first series, I began unravelling the story of this spectacular and historic nation by travelling from Athens, around the Peloponnese and up to the Ionian Islands. It took in parts of the country that lots of tourists know well, but in amongst the popular places were hidden gems undiscovered by the holidaying masses. This series, I'm back on board my beautiful boat Mia Zoi and heading to a region of Greece I haven't spent much time in. The plan is to skip between the islands, taking in the sights of the northern Aegean. It'll be a journey of discovery where I'll be digging deeper into the fabric that makes Greece so unique and immersing myself in a centuries-old culture unlike anywhere else on earth. In this episode, I'm exploring Lésvos, Greece's third largest island, and consequently has a lot to offer. It's an island of contrast where history and nature collide. Wow, how picturesque is this? Greece's capital for ouzo, and its most famous person in history was a woman, Sappho, the great lyric poet from antiquity. And the island's name has become synonymous with her supposed sexuality. There are some beautiful petrified forests here, some great diving, and some of the best and hottest geothermal springs in all of Europe. I think that's what I need right now to recover from a long day. But I just don't want to leave this place. It looks absolutely magnificent. Our first port of call was at the very north of Lésvos, barely a dozen kilometres from Turkey, at the town of Molivos. It's instantly recognisable for its magnificent harbour and red-roofed stone houses. The town follows a gentle slope rising to the splendid castle that towers above. It's a fortress that's been conquered by everyone, from Achilles and the Byzantines to the Genoese and Ottomans. You'll learn more about that shortly. Walking through the cobble streets, you'll come across several polygonal stone walls that are unique to the town. The shops and taverns have their own character too, uninfluenced by global athletic, fashion and fast food brands. Instead, you'll find locals selling art and crafts that are modelled on provincial products and the history of Lésvos. The restaurants are similar, highlighting flavours from regional produce that you'll discover nowhere else. For me, it's a bit of a step back in time, like visiting Rhodes, Corfu or Mykonos 40 years ago. I don't know how long it'll stay this way because more and more travellers are discovering it. Town planners of the world, take note. You don't need symmetry and cross streets at 90 degrees to create beauty. There is no symmetry here, and to me, this is probably one of the most beautiful towns I've seen in Greece. Big matzo ball, but I can't see much better. It's a maze of alleyways that feed down to the harbour and beaches. While it might not be the easiest place to navigate, it's sure a pretty spot to get lost. The architecture is a mismatch of one civilization after another, each building on top of, beside, and adding to the previous. Amazingly, it works, like these balconies, added by the Ottomans to the Genoese stone walls, or these single-storied stone buildings that as the population grew, they built second and third-storey additions with that same lightweight Ottoman influence. The fabric of these little streets is absolutely divine. In actual fact, this was voted the most beautiful street in Europe in 2014. Around the world, globalisation, planning laws and the urban sprawl has created towns and cities that segregate residential districts from retail and manufacturing. It's a breath of fresh air to visit a place where people live, produce and sell their wares under the same roof. There's a genuine sense of tradition that makes you want to walk through and be immersed in the local culture and maybe buy something that you won't find anywhere else. Let me tell you, Helen certainly gave the credit card a workout in Molivos. There are two major fortified towns in Lésvos. This is second to Mytilene, Molivos, or the ancient name of Mythina. It's a picturesque town, it's absolutely magnificent, and you'll get a wonderful view of its beautiful red roofs and blue sea looking over to Turkey. If you come up to the castle, come up early in the morning, opens up at 8 o'clock and it's nice and cool right now. I'm going to have a walk through. I've visited countless forts in my travels through Greece, and I'll be honest with you, every time I see one in the itinerary, I think to myself, not another bloody castle. But then I do a little research and check out a few photos, and quickly I get excited. Although the castle and the town of Molivos are completely different, the one thing they have in common is this place doesn't look anything like it did when it started. 3,000 years ago, there are several civilizations layered upon each other here. So this place is about 700 years old, but there's stuff underneath it, just like the town. Absolutely magnificent history. In more recent years, sections of the castle have been restored and made accessible. So much of it is in great condition and open to the public. In the summer months, it's actually used for events like live music and orchestral performances. Now that would be something special. Sitting inside the stone walls of a centuries-old castle, being serenaded by a string quartet while taking in the spectacular views. That's assuming there's food on offer. I can't go too long without a bite to eat. Just ask the producer or cameraman. This castle has connections all the way back to the Trojan War, which occurred just around the corner here. Achilles himself laid siege to what was here. Not much left of it. The Byzantines then rebuilt the whole place. And then the Genoese came through the Gattelusi family and built a wonderful fortification. Following the Genoese, the Ottomans came and modernised the whole fort. And what you see today is basically Ottoman. What I'm interested in is going to see if I can find some of the ruins from Achilles' day. I'm no archaeologist, but I'll give it a shot. And here they are, the last remnants of what was here at the time of Achilles. At least that's what they tell me. Regardless, it's fascinating to see how the changes in ruling cultures and advancements in warfare impacted the design of the castle. From the simplicity of medieval battlements to more complicated towers with rifle slits from the age of gunpowder. Each period has left its mark. Wow. You could say that this castle tells the story of Lésvos in one structure. So the walk up the hill to see yet another fortress is well worth it, even if it's just for the views. When you think of scuba diving, it generally conjures up images of coral gardens, shipwrecks and sharks in places like the Great Barrier Reef in Southeast Asia. Here in Greece, there are underwater attractions equally as inspiring. You just need to know where to look.
For 20 million years, everything here was just a volcano. So we will see some volcanic formations, incredible. The deepest part will be at 28, 25 meters, and the shallower part will be 10 meters. And it's very narrow and tall. It's amazing. And the second dive will be on the other island called Mirmigi. Mirmigi means ant in Greek.
Mirmigi,
yes. Yeah. And this is a very nice rocky reef with, of course, volcanic formations. And over there we can have a unique view of some tube worms meadow. It's a meadow full of tube worms.
A meadow of tube worms?
Yes. And when you're going next to them, they go inside, and it's incredible.
Hey, I'm looking forward to that one. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Lésvos is known for its many dive sites, from wrecks and reefs to caves and sea life. There's plenty of options. The area we're exploring today is known as the Petrus Islands, named after the coastal town nearby. The biggest of the landmasses is Ayos Yorgos, with a few smaller islets surrounding it. From dry land, you may not be aware that this whole region of Greece has been shaped by its volcanic history. Get underwater and you'll soon discover evidence of that dramatic past. These massive columns of rock were formed 20 million years ago when lava shot out of the seabed and subsequently cooled, leaving these impressive pylon-like structures. I felt as though I was swimming through an ancient submerged city, and these were the remnant towers. They surrounded and dwarfed us as we drifted deeper into the abyss, making our way to the seafloor. From what seemed like a giant sunken metropolis of high-rise buildings to a miniature version, only this one was alive and thriving. The seabed at the second dive site wasn't the desert-like landscape you often encounter in open water. Instead, it was covered with thousands of tube worms. As far as the eye could see stood the tiny sand and mud structures that house these fascinating marine invertebrates. Their feather-like tentacles arise from their heads and wave in the current, collecting food and oxygen. At the first sign of danger, they quickly retract inside the casing. There are thousands of different varieties of tube worms found around the world. They live in some of the most hostile environments on the planet, including vast depths and volcanic vents. Compared to that, these guys live a life of luxury. Diving can really drain the energy out of a big whale like myself, so the perfect remedy is to beach myself somewhere and just relax. With so many sandy foreshores, there's a lot to choose from. But here in Lésvos, we can go one better and soak in the thermal baths of Molivos. One word of warning, they're very hot.
I got pins and needles, but I'm not getting out because my mate here from Holland, we're having a bit of a competition to see who lasts longest. I think I'm going to lose.
I think I'm...
You're a winner, mate. You're a winner.
Chloride, sodium, radium, chloric lithium, ammonium, potassium. These are just some of the 25 minerals that are in that therapeutic water that's coming out of the springs below me. I was in for an hour and a half, 45 degrees, opened up the pores, and then I came up here and left the videos working my body now that my pores are open. It's absolutely unbelievable. I don't know what the word is. And I've got the sea in front of me, the Aegean Sea in front of me. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't even talk right now. But if you're coming to Lésvos, you must come to Lésvos first of all. Come to Molivos first and just get an entry into this absolutely magnificent island. Anyway, I'm just going back. Sorry.
The simplicity of the bathhouse gave it an authentic and welcoming feel. It was a relaxed atmosphere, which made it all the more soothing a place to be. To complete the picture, we sat in the cooling waters of the Aegean, Mother Nature's bath. I could imagine visitors from centuries ago doing much the same as we did, spending an hour or so in the hot baths, getting a massage, and then enjoying a late afternoon swim to wash away the day's stress. Not that there was much of that for me. About the most stressful thing I had to do was choosing where to go for dinner that night. In the end, the sunset was too good to miss. So we just sat at the back of Mia Zoi and Chef Kyriako cooked up some local seafood. Not a bad way to end a magic day. Leaving Molivos, we made our way to the western tip of the island and the fishing village of Sigri. It's a small town with a few taverns and not much else. Being on the dry side of Lésvos, it's a sparse landscape, but 20 million years ago, it was covered in forest. Evidence of that time remains today, slowly being unearthed by Mother Nature, as well as some inquisitive archaeologists. One of them is Professor Nikos Zouros, the director of the Petrified Forest Museum in Sigri. He's also the president of the Global Geoparks Network. He's a busy man, but somehow found the time to show me around.
The idea of creating geoparks, because this designation didn't exist in the past, it was born here.
In Greece?
In Greece, in Lesvos Island.
Wow, Professor, this is unbelievable. I've never seen any. It's a tree. It's a whole tree.
Yeah, of course, it's a whole tree. Let me explain you. This is a pine tree that is here due to a big volcanic eruption. The volcanic eruption took place 20 million years ago.
Wow.
The volcanic eruption destroyed the forest, and the material from the volcano came and covered everything, all the vegetation, at the original site. That's why we find here trees, but also the branches, the fruits, and even the leaves of the trees. Inside these layers of pyroclastic material, this is the volcanic ash.
So it's ash and mud that encapsulated it.
Absolutely. It was mud and ash that captured the tree And due to the circulation of hot water, very rich in silicon dioxide, we have a process of silicification. This means petrification. The organic material became inorganic. The wood became stone. And that's how we have nowadays these trees in their original position, keeping their shape, the external characteristics, but even, and this is more important, the internal characteristics of the wood. We can see in the microscope and we can recognize a variety of trees. That's how I can come here and show you this tree and tell you that this was a pine tree.
This is Mother Nature's Medusa. These trees are so perfectly preserved that you can even see the details in the bark. To truly appreciate the colour and dimensions of what you're looking at, you really have to come here in person.
So let me show how violent was the eruption that destroyed this forest. Look, here we have a standing tree, here we have a volcanic bomb that came due to the eruption, destroyed the branch, which is now under this huge volcanic bomb.
So a volcano that's kilometres away threw this bomb of lava, that's it there,
Yes.
and it ripped the branch off.
Absolutely.
It's a snapshot in history.
Yeah, it's like taking a photo of what happened 20 million years ago here and how this forest was created. And you can see also how beautifully have been preserved the annual rings that show us
Yeah, the rings, I can see them there.
age of this tree. This tree has an age of 300 years at that time, and it was stopped, his age was stopped by the volcanic eruption.
Let me get a quick snapshot as well. You stand there, so I've got a snapshot of you, of a snapshot 20 million years later. Thank you very much. Professor, let's get going, eh? I'm so honoured to be here for what you and your forefathers have uncovered, the biggest petrified forest in the world.
Yes, indeed, there's no other forest, petrified forest in the world with 60 different species of trees found in their original place.
To the uninitiated, everything on the island looks like regular rocks, but if you gaze closely enough, soon you'll discover that many of the stones and boulders are actually the remains of petrified trees, slowly crumbling away and being washed into the sea.
Here you can see the successive events. We can discover the successive events that took place during the 6 million years of the volcanic activity on Lesvos Island. The lower level is just at the level of the sea.
I can see the shapes, they're all trees, parts of trees.
Yes, these are sequoia trees, in
Wow.
fact. Huge trees that have been released by the waves.
So this is the first layer. Where is there more layers, is there?
Yes. This is the first layer, 60 centimeters higher. We have this yellow layer full of different trees. All these brown and yellow things are different tree trunks.
Yep, I can see one there.
Yeah, and this
And here.
Then we have a thick layer of pyroclastics full of volcanic bombs. You see these red
That's a
pieces
bomb,
of rock.
yeah.
And at the top we see another forest. This yellow thing
Just
is
there,
a
yeah.
silicified tree. Inside this yellowish layer, which is volcanic ash. At the top of that, we have another layer full of different pieces, fragments of lava. And at the top, you see a yellow piece
I
and
can
then
see
a
there,
black
yes.
piece. And this is the youngest, the fourth forest in this
So
location.
this period from there to there is basically about 6 million years.
It is included in the 6 million years that we have the volcanic activity in Lesvos Island that started 22 million years ago and ended 16 million years ago.
So we don't have to worry about any more volcanoes on this island.
No, because they are completely inactive.
Successive volcanic events over millions of years shaped the island we see today. But perhaps the slow forces of climate change and shifting tectonic plates have had the greatest impact of all. No longer do we see forests growing here. The temperature is too hot and there's simply not enough rainfall.
Professor, I just cannot believe what I'm seeing now. The size is sequoia, right?
Yes, it's a giant sequoia.
This thing is massive. Tell me, what do geologists get out of this that adds any value to the world?
It's amazing the amount of information that this site can offer us. First of all, we are in front of a sequoia tree, and it's so big that we generally found it only in continental areas. It shows also that the climate conditions was completely different than those existing nowadays. This forest, this tree, and the other species found in the area of the petrified forest show us that we have a semi-tropical forest, similar of the forest that exists nowadays in southeastern Asia. All this information show us the paleogeography, the climatic conditions, the species that lived 20 million years ago in the Aegean. All this information are unique. This is the only site that we can get all this kind of information in just one single site.
Megalonissi is a barren, dry little island, untouched by man and just a stone's throw from Lésvos. What fascinates me is that the digging here has only recently begun. There are hundreds of these petrified trees just below the surface, waiting to be discovered. Wow!
This is the Gulf of Kaloni, Aristotle's lagoon. Aristotle came here and he did a lot of field work, which was the basis of biology. And today we're here sardine fishing. All morning we've been out there with the sardines and we've caught a bounty. We're gonna go take them back and we're gonna salt them and have them with a bit of ouzo. That is what they do in Lesbos. It's an awesome morning. I'm sorry that you couldn't be here for the fishing, but it was 3 o'clock and it was too dark for you, but you're gonna see some awesome sardines. What a great place. I love this place.
Compared to much of the Mediterranean, the fishing industry here is still thriving. It might not be the heyday of a century ago, when the hauls were so big they were exporting sardines across Europe, but they managed to catch enough to feed themselves and keep the local restaurants and home kitchens well supplied. Today's catch made the early start all the more worth it. I have to admit, when I woke up at 3 a.m. to board this little fishing vessel, I was a little sceptical, but once the morning coffee kicked in and I could see plenty of fish coming aboard, it became quite exciting. Mind you, it's a tough life doing this every day.
They've just taken the sardines out of the nets and they're putting them into fresh water just to take the salt water out of them and clean them up. So you can see that was a clean solution of fresh water. When they're finished, you'll see all the gunk coming out. And they'll put them into these foam boxes ready for market.
By fresh water, I mean clean salt water. It's fresh because it comes straight from the sea. Amongst other things, Lésvos is known for ouzo and sardines, so it's only fitting that the pairing of the two originated here. It's quite common to sit in a tavern, sipping on an ouzo while munching on salted or barbecued sardines. They go well together, perhaps too well on occasion. The Gulf of Kaloni has provided a rich harvest of sardines for centuries. It became known as the sardine capital of Greece, and locals would claim the best tasting fish came from here. To tell you the truth, they all taste much the same, wherever you go. Delicious. A bit of salt and pepper, some garlic, and a drizzle of olive oil is just about all you need before roasting these bad boys. Once cooked, add a squeeze of lemon and some parsley, and you've got the perfect entree or snack. Not only is it tasty, but healthy too. From Sigri, we travelled south along the west coast to Eresos. This was the setting for Lawrence Durrell's play named Sappho, and you'll see plenty of monuments commemorating her life all over the place. She's without a doubt the island's most famous person and considered one of antiquity's greatest poets. A groundbreaker for her time, way back in the 6th century BC, Sappho wrote about the beauty of women and their relationships. The island's name became synonymous with her supposed sexuality. Her work is considered extraordinary and has influenced writers throughout history. To learn more about this great woman, I met with local photographer and writer Zeli Hatzidimitriou, and we spent the morning talking about Eresos and Sappho.
Zelia, I came to Eresos because I understand it's a very significant town. What's special about Eresos?
Well, Eresos has the best energy, the most strange and precious energy from the whole island of Lesvos, and it attracts lots of people here.
where does the energy come from? What is it? I can feel a bit myself. I love the green water. I walk through the town. What is it that brings this energy, you think?
Well, we are trying to figure it out, but we don't know. Maybe it's the same energy that inspired Sappho.
Right.
In the ancient years. We're really trying to understand what attracts people so many times. Actually, I can say that this is a pilgrimage. Especially women come here every year in a kind of pilgrimage, searching the, let's say, the traces of Sappho or something that connects.
Wow. I'd like to understand more about her.
To tell you the truth, if you want to discover Sappho, it's better to look around,
yes,
to look at this wonderful landscape that didn't change since her time, to look at the light, the water, and you will be inspired, and you will discover Sappho, and you will understand her poetry, her amazing words, her poems.
Well, let's finish our drinks and go and do that.
Okay,
Thank
let's
you.
do it.
Siniashu.
Yamas.
Unfortunately, the majority of Sappho's work has been lost. She's most remembered for her poem Ode to Aphrodite, possibly because of how revealing it is. But like many great works, scholars still debate the contents to this very day. In the poem, she praised Aphrodite, the goddess of love, for the attention of another woman. To me, the final paragraph is the most powerful. Come again to me, O now, release me, end the great pang, and all my heart desireth now fulfillment. Fulfill, O Aphrodite, fight by my shoulder. These emotive and poignant words inspire imagination and passion, and have done so for over 2,000 years. Here on the island, it's expressed through art, writing, and the way many of the locals conduct their lives. It's a place that oozes creativity and a sense of freedom.
You know what's amazing? It's almost like it's hidden. You see her hidden. It's almost like in history they've hidden her away.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And you can only have one point of view in order to discover Sappho. It's not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And if we consider that all her poems they're destroyed in the Alexandria fire. Anyway, I'm still hoping that somewhere in the world, in a hidden monastery, the poems of Sappho will be discovered, because they were the monks that they were copying her poems. So maybe somewhere they are, and they are hidden from the Christians.
She wrote 10,000 lines.
Yeah, she wrote, there were 10 books, and now we have only some fragments of her poems.
That's sad. They'll find it. Someone will find it.
Yes, that's your new project.
You bet, you bet, you bet.
Zelly's fervour for Sappho is clearly apparent in the way she talks about her. Her in-depth knowledge was articulated in the most colourful way. I love meeting people like Zelly who are so passionate about a subject. It goes to show how great an impact Sappho is still having today. Now, if you'd ever asked me, would I ever consider the joy of birdwatching, the response would be immediate and almost predictable, a deep belly laugh. But meeting Eleni in the wetlands of Ακτές has changed that forever.
So I'm speaking very quietly because already I've scared a number of birds many, many times, purely because of the way I move and my size. Thankfully I've got Eleni here to guide me in some way. Eleni, I'm looking at a number of flamingos here. That bunch there, how many do you think are there?
400.
400. How many here just generally in Ακτές?
Generally today around 1,000 birds.
About 1,000? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Now I'm just watching those guys there. They're beautiful birds. Mm-hmm. Tell me something. Where are they coming from? How much time do they spend here?
They spend many months around here. They are born in Turkey, but we have seen birds coming here that were born in other parts of the Mediterranean Sea, like France and Spain and Italy, or Algeria and Morocco. But most of them, they come from Turkey.
They're such a beautiful bird. How close can we get? This is about as close as we can get, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
And what's amazing is the road's only 200 metres away. Anybody can do this bird watching. And I'm not a bird watcher, I'm not a bird watcher, but I think I've found a new hobby because they're beautiful.
They are.
They are beautiful to watch them. The black and the pink and the whites. Yeah. It's absolutely magnificent. I want to get closer. Can we go closer?
Yeah, we can. We can try. We can
Let's
try.
go. Let's go.
So the first lesson for bird watching is that walking tippy-toe is not only ridiculous, but the immediate signal that you are an amateur. That gaggle you hear in the background is the flamingos laughing at me. The protected sanctuary of Valικές covers around 3,500 acres. Seasonal flooding attracts various migratory birds to the wetlands from vast distances. They come here to rest, feast and nest before returning to their normal homes. It's an important habitat that's under threat from a changing climate and localised human impact. For now though, vast numbers of flamingos and other birds too come here on an annual pilgrimage. It's a sight to behold and not something you'd imagine coming across in Greece. Sure, you'd expect to see vast herds of goats or be stopped on a mountain road by a mob of sheep, but a flock of flamingos? You know what? I think they're still laughing at me, but now they're in chorus.
To be a good bird watcher, you don't wear white t-shirts. I've got the full Malacca cap today.
You need to be, not so visible.
The long and the short of it is, you don't need to have an expert like Eleni with you, although it certainly helps. Anyone with a set of binoculars can come out here and do this. It's an experience that you'll never forget. But please respect these wonderful creatures by keeping a distance of at least 200 metres and leave the place the way you found it. Oh, and don't wear white. Next stop was at the southern end of the island, the town of Plomari. It's the second largest settlement in Lésvos and home to about 3,000 people. Here you'll see distinct remnants of century-old stacks and buildings that remind us of what an industrial powerhouse it once was. In the past, it was known for supplying much of the Aegean with olive oil and all its byproducts like soap. Today, it's a tourism hub, and more importantly, Greece's capital for ouzo production. It's a big claim to fame, but something the island certainly lives up to. I specifically timed my visit to coincide with Ouzofest. Much like Germany's Oktoberfest, Ouzofest is a weekend of festivity that brings all the distillers together to celebrate Greece's world-renowned aniseed-flavoured spirit. Apart from the ouzo, they also serve the local food that should accompany it. Plus, of course, no festival is complete without a bit of traditional music. The music was blaring, souvlaki cooking, and the ouzo was flowing. It was a great atmosphere that brought together locals and tourists from across the globe. The producer tasked me with tasting every different ouzo on offer. With my odyssey and pride in mind, I accepted. Something tells me I wasn't the only one taking on the challenge. There were plenty of rosy-cheeked and glassy-eyed folks laughing, eating, and dancing amongst the crowd. It was going to be a long night, and yoga wasn't looking good for the morning.
How much ouzo of the world production of ouzo is made in Lésvos?
The 60%.
60%?
Yeah.
Wow, so the majority of ouzo comes out of this island?
Yeah.
Wow, so it must be good.
We have the oldest companies in Greece, and it is the number one capital because of the aniseeds.
Is the aniseed special here, is it?
Yes.
Why is that?
It's because of the microclimate of the region and also from the seeds that they're still the old seeds that we used to put inside the ouzo.
We are working together now, 5th and 6th generation, officially since 1860. The company belongs 100% to the family. We are 3 families that we run the company now.
And you are the 5th generation?
I am the 6th generation.
Wow.
We do not do it just as a profession. We love it. We have an advantage of, because of the succession of the generations, too many knowledge and experience is accumulated. So this comes comes already to the next generation. And this gives us a great advantage.
Absolutely. Family business has to be better, hasn't it?
We have been experimenting and distilling and producing for 1.5 century now. So
Wow, that's awesome.
thank you, sir.
I think I've been to like 5 stands so far, and I've got to try and stand straight. Opa, opa.
And also be careful that ouzo, it needs food inside. So just a
I
zip
just
of
had a gyros.
ouzo.
I just had a top gyros, man. I was hungry. I was hangry, man. Yamas.
Cheers. Welcome to Lesvos. Welcome to Greece.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice time. Enjoy your stay.
I will.
Ouzo, the best meze for ouzo is the company, the companionship, and to let yourself relax, just to live it. And some small dishes, we call it meze with salted fish.
Excellent. I will. Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Now, mind you, this is like my 6th or 7th ouzo tonight, so I'm getting a bit wobbly, you know.
So do you want to hear the verdict? Which is the best ouzo in Greece and possibly the world? Let me start by saying the gyros was awesome. And I've never tried so many different ouzos. Each distiller had up to 5 varieties. However, there can only be one winner, and that was the atmosphere. From 8 p.m. into the early hours of the morning, people were coming and going. Singles, couples, entire families with 90-year-old grandparents and newborns. There were kids everywhere, and it was ouzo, souvlaki, salted fish, and more ouzo that brought them here.
If you're thinking about Greece, one of the first 4 or 5 things that comes to your mind is ouzo. Lesvos is the capital of ouzo in Greece, and we've come to the biggest distillery in the world just to see how ouzo is made.
Legend has it that back in the 14th century, monks in Mount Athos were making tsiporo, Greece's rocket fuel, and flavoured some with anise, and from that arose ouzo. So you could almost say that it's a form of holy water. It rose to prominence in the 19th century, just after the War of Independence. It was as though the country needed a national beverage to call its own, or maybe to celebrate the occasion. But it was the demise in popularity of absinthe early in the 20th century that saw ouzo become popular in other parts of the world. An expert on the subject is Marousa Tsahaki, the master distiller here at Plomari Ouzo.
So these are the main seeds we use in the distillation. Aniseed is the most important one, is the one that we are cultivating in our fields here in Lesvos, in Lisvori. This is fennel, this is star anise, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt of the salters of Kaloni. Many people are asking how the recipe is original while we use seeds like star anise or cinnamon that they are coming from the Far East. We should not forget that Plomari was a very big port and it was just in the road of spices from the Far East to Europe.
But principally, the aniseed and salt is local.
Yes, they are from Lesvos. But I think it's better to see them in the distillation.
Let's do that now. Fantastic.
Okay. And, we have
In days gone by, ouzo distilling was a backyard operation. People would have stills in their farmhouse and make their own, or there would be someone in town that kept the locals in supply. This factory takes that to a whole new level.
Here is where everything happens. We have 18 alembics. Alembic is the distillation pot. So we have 18 small distillation pots because the alembic, the distillation pot, is part of the process. It's part of the recipe. And it's really important to keep, when our volumes were growing, to keep the recipe the same as it was its original, its traditional recipe. So we didn't make bigger alembics, but we were just adding another one and another one in our distillery. So here in Ouzo Plomari, we are 100% distilled and double distilled. So what is happening really in distillation, when the distillate starts running, we separate the distillate in 3 parts: the head, the heart, and the tails. The heart is the part that we keep. So we have our first distillation that it's lasts 9 hours. We get the heart, and this heart we put it again in the alembic with other seeds and spices of the recipe, and we redistill it.
To be honest, I lost Marousa at the head, heart and tail bit, but kept nodding so she wouldn't think I was the slow intellectual midget that I am. Mind you, I feared the tasting of ouzo again. The night before filled my bloodstream with so much, I was all ouzoed out.
I've got to tell you, I'm an ouzo fan and I've tasted ouzo plumari. I've been drinking it all my life. So if I was tasting it now, I wouldn't be Greek, you know? But what I do want to taste is what you've created. You're a scientist and you've created a new recipe that I've heard of. It's a version of mastika. Can I try that?
Yes, of course. Μπορούμε να έχουμε τη dry?
Awesome.
Oh, τέλεια. So this is the first dry mastika. Traditionally, mastika in Greece was produced as a liquor, which is very high in sugar. And this is the very first spirit drink of mastika. Try to tell me how you...
Oh, that is absolutely... I love mastika, but it's a very sweet and sugary thing, and it's a nice liqueur, but this is a spirit.
Yes, this
fantastic.
Is it smells very nice of mastika.
And you're the originator of this?
Yes.
Stiniasu.
Stiniasu.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This is awesome. You've got to try it. M-dry. Oh, that's awesome. That is so different. It's a spirit, isn't it?
Yes, it is a spirit.
That's fantastic.
It contains much less sugar than the usual, the traditional recipe, which is at about 400, 300 grams
of sugar.
Of sugar per liter.
Wow.
With Ouzo Fest over, it was time to leave Plomari. We weighed anchor and left the pretty port, tracking northeast towards Mytilene, the capital of Lesvos. Along the way, Captain suggested a stop for a swim. He knows almost every inch of Greece's coastline, and once again, he nailed it. Another awesome beach. How he remembers all these places, I have no idea. We're in the south of Lesvos, and there are two gulfs here. We're in the smaller of the two, the Gulf of Yeras. And behind me is the beautiful beach of Aios Emorgenis, considered one of the best beaches in all of Lesvos. I don't know how they can say that because there are so many beautiful beaches here, but I'm looking at that water and I just want to jump in. I'm going to do that right now. No two beaches in Greece are ever the same. They've each got their own quirks and points of interest. Some have fine white sand while others are pebbled. There's long, open expanses of seashore, and then you'll find tiny alcoves, flanked by towering cliffs. The one thing they all have in common is the warm, clear water. In the next episode of My Greek Odyssey, I'm making my way to the capital, Mytilene. It's quite the contrast to the rest of Lesvos, with loads of people and the noise and excitement that come with it. From there I'm headed south, where I'll briefly visit the remote island of Psara, before making my way to Chios, the birthplace of Homer. But before leaving, there's still plenty of time to enjoy this beautiful little beach. We may even grab some lunch at the tavern. Nah, I better not, because then we might end up spending the night here. That actually doesn't sound like a bad idea.